Good evening, and welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm your host, John Ronan, and as you know now, because we are drawing to the close of our 35th season, I interview writers about their craft, what they're working on, what they've accomplished, what they're planning for the future. We do have on other brands of artists at times, and we're going to introduce you to another brand of artist, a painter, in just a minute. After I remind you that all the original programming at 1623 Studios is a result of cable access television. It's not a service you get with Dish or other means of accessing the internet. You stick with cable, stick with the Writer's Block. Now, as I mentioned, we do have a guest of a different brand of artist, a painter by the name of Dan Murphy, who's been painting maritime subjects for a great number of years, and we're going to talk to him about his background. And while we're doing that, at the beginning, we'll show you some JPEGs of some of his work while we are introducing him to the audience. Dan Murphy, welcome to the Writer's Block.
Thank you for having me.
Now, give me some background information. Where are you from originally, and where did you go to school?
I'm from Saugus originally. I have a bunch of brothers. I have 6 brothers. We grew up in Saugus, and my mother's family's from Saugus, goes way back. I went to Mass Maritime Academy down the Cape, as well as a couple of my brothers.
Is that at Woods Hole?
It's in Bourne, right down, right on the Cape Cod Canal.
Mm.
I kind of followed my brothers there. They had gone there, and out of high school, like, what am I going to do? And I had applied to art schools, and then I saw them coming out of there making good money, and I'm like, well, I could go out on the boats and make some good money, and I can still paint on the side.
So you applied to art school.
I did apply to some
real early. You were interested in painting early.
Oh, I've been painting probably, it's probably in elementary school. I think my mother bought me a set, and I was always drawing and painting ever since then.
So you were interested in painting from the beginning, and then but you went to the Maritime Academy and began working on tugboats?
No, actually, when I graduated, I went down in the Gulf of Mexico, and I worked on supply boats for a year, and I decided that wasn't for me. Offshore at the oil rigs, and it was kind of tough back then. So I came back, and I ended up working at Woods Hole for the Steamship Authority for about 5 years. I really enjoyed that. I did a lot of artwork down there.
So you're painting at the same time?
Yeah, I've always, like I said, always have a sketchbook with me. Always.
And often maritime subjects because of your career?
A lot of it is maritime. When I'm shoreside, I'm painting shore scenes. Or I love the mountains and stuff too, but usually it has water in it somewhere.
Good.
So usually, but I did a lot of painting when I was down in Woods Hole. I was there for a week, and I worked the 6-12 ship on an old steam reciprocating ferry.
That's interesting. We're showing some JPEGs now so people can get a sense of your subject matter. We'll see some others later live right here in the studio. I'm interested in how your interest, or how early your interest in painting started and what the source of that was.
Well, one of my aunts, she was a gifted artist in her own self. She did a lot of drawing and stuff, and I got to see some of her work. She never really followed through on it, but I saw some of her work, and I was blown away by it. It was just beautiful, but she didn't follow up on it.
Is this sister your father's?
My mother's sister, Aunt Gert, and I guess they had an uncle, Frankie, who was a gifted. He was a merchant marine, I believe, but he also did a lot of watercolors.
Whoa!
He designed a lot of tattoos back then, and he was. I still have a lot of his original watercolors. The tattoos.
Wow, so it's very much a family.
Yeah, it does. It drops back, and now my daughters following in my stuff. Actually, my boys both have their own little talent in their own, you know.
Whoa.
Oh.
How many kids do you have?
We have three kids, 2 boys and a girl.
They're all going to be artists?
No, 2 of them are into computers. They do programming and stuff like that. And my daughter's in New York. She's a graphic designer, digital media, and she does a lot of art. She loves doing the artwork. She really followed up on that. But the boys, they've actually been picking up and one's been drawing and doing a little painting, and the other, he enjoys carving, wood carving, because I do a lot of woodwork too.
Yeah, you sent me some images of your sculptures,
Yeah,
and I was surprised.
I did some metal. I do some metal sculptures. I don't do as much of that. It's tougher on the hands, all the grinding and stuff. But
yeah.
But I do a little bit of that. But I've done a lot of woodwork. And I've worked actually with Jeremy Adams. He was from Annisquam, Rockport. He built musical instruments, harpsichords and organs. And he had a show over at the Cape Ann Museum a few years back of all of his.
What was his name again?
Jeremy Adams.
Yeah, that's vaguely familiar. I don't think I went to that show. But.
What a gifted man. I felt very privileged to work with him. And the stuff we did was kind of like, it was a lost art. You know, the stuff that he would build.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're based in Gloucester now.
I'm in Danvers.
You're living in Danvers.
Yeah, I'm in Danvers, and we've been there for probably 35 years. Originally from Saugus, like I said.
So your kids are all artists, marginally, but no one's at sea.
No, just.
But your life was on the water.
I spent when I left the Steamship Authority down the Cape. I came back, and I ended up getting a job for Boston Towing in Boston here, and I was there for I think about 7 or 8 years. Then I left to stay home with and help with the kids. They were little. You know, I think my daughter had just turned 1, and the boys were 3 and 5, something like that. And it was the hardest job I ever did. 3 of them. It was easier to go back on the boats.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But then a few years later, I got hired back on the boats. I went and they asked me back, and so I've been back there for about 15 years.
And then you said you recently retired.
I just retired. I got tired of getting up in the morning, early morning.
You must miss the water though sometimes. Huh?
I do. There's a lot of neat stuff you get to see and be part of.
Yeah.
A lot of historical stuff sometimes. All the tall ship events. You know.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you up in Gloucester, and you can live right on.
Oh, I love it up here. I mean,
right on the water.
Every time you come, it's very inspiring anywhere you.
Yeah. I love being in Gloucester.
Yeah.
You've brought some art,
yeah.
So we can talk about it and look at it simultaneously, and get an idea of your craft and what your goals are.
Well, I just like painting what I'm involved with. Like all my paintings have the story to them. You know, this one we were coming back, I think from an LNG ship that was offshore. We had to bring people out there.
Oh, they're right offshore here?
Yeah, and I was actually on the boat in the back.
Let me ask Emily, where should we hold this, Emily? Is that okay right there? Okay, yeah, just hold that there.
But like I said, a lot of them have the story, you know, like you see 2 boats, but in actuality, the one that's in the back was in front, and I was taking the pictures and sketching from in front of it, but when I did the painting, I photoshopped the boat back in the distance. You know, I changed it around because I wanted it in the picture.
So when you're doing that on a boat, any of your crew members say, Murphy, get over!
Yeah, kind of. Oh, I a lot of times they call them my floating studio. You know,
so this is the LNG terminal that's just about 10 miles off Magnolia Point, I think. It looks like.
Yeah, I think they had stopped using it. So what what it is the LNG would go offshore, would wait offshore, and we would bring the Coast Guard out to it. So the Coast Guard couldn't do an inspection before they came in. So we would go out, we'd bring the Coast Guard out on the tugboats. And that way we could push the ship around, create a lee so they can get aboard. Because their Coast Guard, the Coast Guard boats were too small to come alongside, and when you get a swell and stuff, there's no way they're getting up the ladders, So that's why the tugs would go out.
So this is a result of sketching and photography that you do on the water, and then you come back into your studio.
Yes.
You have a studio in the house?
Yes. I have a barn and that I use a lot. So I do a lot there. But basically that's how I come across a lot of it. Sometimes I do plein air, but this type of subject doesn't work well for plein air.
Yeah. How long from an initial sketch when you get an idea to finished product and oil?
It varies. Sometimes things just click well, and you can maybe 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes you work on it for 3 or 4 hours, and you just say, I'm going to put it aside and come back to it another day. And you might come back to it 2 or 3 weeks later.
And sometimes it looks great, and sometimes not so great.
Yeah, that's part of it. I think
I
think every artist will tell you they've got a room full of stuff that they're just
yeah.
not happy with.
Right. So thank you. I want to ask you to show some others. These are all oil, oil on canvas?
Yes.
Can you show us the, I said a battleship, and it's the Constitution. It is a battleship.
It is.
It's the USS Constitution, the oldest commissioned ship in the world, I think. Is that right?
I think so. It's one of them.
Tell us about that one.
This is, I call it History on the Move. History on the Move. We take it out for the turnarounds, so a lot of times I'd sit on the back deck while we're tied up to it and we're moving it.
So you should be on the ship?
I'd be on the tugboat.
Oh, on the tugboat.
I'd be on the stern here, and we put up the lines and stuff, and then we head out, slow bell, just usually up 1 knot, just slowly taking it through Boston out to Castle Island.
They do that just once a year?
No, we do it. They do it about, I'd say 6 or 7 times. There's a lot
really?
of different events, changing captain, all different types of events go on. It's usually on a Friday, it seems. Sometimes we just never know. You show up and it's like, oh, you're moving the Constitution today. So it's
the ships are impressive, and I'm always amazed that sailors got up in the top of those masts. Frightening just to look at it, let alone do it in a tossing sea.
It's just it's neat to be part of moving something like that. Being part of it. I actually had the chance back in I think it was '97 when the Constitution went to Marblehead. It went to Marblehead for the big anniversary, and we towed it over there, and it spent the night, and then they did a big event the next day, where it went out, and they had, I think, like Blue Angels flew overhead, and a lot of stuff went on. It was quite a neat thing to be part of. So it is. I just feel fortunate to have been involved in so many very kind of historical events.
Yeah. That's impressive work. The timeline on this was
I started this from a sketch, and I think I probably put it down, and months later I came back to it.
How many months?
Probably 4 or 5 months. Something wasn't clicking right with it, and I just put it aside, and then one day it's just like, I think I'm ready to go back at it.
And it was clear?
And it just came together. I guess it's don't give up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I talk to artists, and I read about artists who are put something away, and then they're afraid to go back and look at it because they might be completely disgusted, or they might think they're Pulitzer Prize winners.
I think every artist can look at a picture and say and think, oh, I could change that. That would, think of some way to improve on it. They may be very happy with it, but they may look at it and go, I think that would work well there.
Yeah, go away. Yeah.
But, at some point you just you don't want to overdo it either.
Right. Thank you. I want to ask you a couple of questions now about getting the painting out to the public. Where you're connected with the North Shore Art Association,
Yes.
and does your work appear there at exhibits?
Yes, regularly. They have a gallery there, so I always have a couple pieces in the gallery. And upstairs they have a show every month.
That's here in Gloucester.
Yes.
Over in East Gloucester.
Pirate Lane, I believe.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great group of people there. Want to get Sarah and.
Are there permanent paintings always on display there, or is it just the events?
No, this in the gallery always has stuff on. They always, all the members can put a couple pieces in. The members can rotate whenever they want, but the shows are monthly shows. Pretty much like a monthly show.
Right.
And then they have another room, which is a specialty room where one artist can have he'll put on his own little show.
Uh-huh.
But they do the Cape Ann Plein Air event is held there sometimes. I know it was this year. Just a lot of great events go on there, and it changes up. So there's always some really good shows.
Well, if anybody in our audience wants to see your work, they can go to North Shore Art Association in East Gloucester?
Yeah, that's where I primarily put my stuff.
Can they buy your work there?
They can if they want.
Okay.
I've been fortunate. I've sold a few pieces there.
Well, this is going to YouTube, so you'll be flooded with demands after the show airs. Tell me about, before we go back to other paintings, I want to ask more about a career of an artist. I'm not familiar with art. I've never drawn, and I don't think I ever will. But where do you send work, and to whom do you send it?
When you say send, what about?
Well, inquire about sales or exhibitions, and find out more about a particular agent or gallery.
Well, primarily I just show my stuff at North Shore, and I'm a member of Danvers Art Association, my hometown. I kind of started off there, and while I was still working, I was very busy. I didn't have as much time to paint. But over the years, I've been more and more, and I've been encouraged to join different associations. So I joined up at North Shore, and like I said, great group there. I'd like to branch out a little bit more, but it gets very busy.
You're very busy.
Well, it gets very busy doing all that, and I actually just like the drawing and painting part. I'm not as much the salesman.
Well, you have a daughter in computers, right?
Yes.
She's
my encouragement and salesperson. She's good like that.
What would you advise young painters to do if they're looking at this thinking, well, that's fun, I think I'd like to branch out? What should they do?
It's I find it very relaxing. I enjoy it. I guess from an art point, it's like draw every day, because it's just the more you draw.
You do every day.
I pretty much draw every day. I always have my sketchbook. I go for coffee, I'll have my sketchbook. It's fun. It spurs conversation. People want to talk to you and want to see what you're drawing, and it's.
You have a time every day. Say, I'm going to work from 10 to 1 every day.
No, I don't. Just kind of when I have that open time frame, I'll just go down and we're up in the shop and
another question I had earlier, and then it slipped my mind. What formal training have you had in classrooms?
I took some weekend courses with a well-known artist, Phil Perkins. He was in Linfield back in high school. A friend of mine, he was also, we loved the drawing and stuff, and his grandmother was a very good artist, and she encouraged us as high schoolers to join this group of retired people at this person's house, and which was pretty bold of us, you know, high school guys going in Saturday mornings, you know.
Yeah.
And but I learned a lot from that man, Phil. He just
That's great. That's
a
great.
lot of encouragement, and just, you know, be open to trying new things, and don't be locked into one thing.
That's wonderful to hear, because I see and hear all the time how males growing up in our culture are discouraged from the arts. It's not, you know, that's not like an NFL kind of occupation, pal. You know, you don't want to be doing that, and it's sad. It's just sad.
And, you know, that was probably part of me going into Mass Maritime. It's like, do I go to Mass College of Art and be a starving artist?
Yeah.
Or do I go to Mass Maritime and follow my brothers? And, you know, it was a good paying job at the time, and it's like, you know, my thought was, I can still do both.
But yeah.
And, you know, you can always say, what if?
Yeah.
But, you know,
I tell people I went into poetry for the money, you know, and teaching was just a sideline.
Yeah.
Can we look at another painting?
Sure.
We're getting down to
Sure. This one I
6
just
minutes
recently
here. I want to
finished.
see some more
This
art.
Actually, I started this as a demonstration at North Shore.
I'm sorry?
I started this one as a demonstration.
Oh.
They asked me to do a demo, and it was pretty bold of me to start such a big one, and it didn't look anything like this when I was done with the 2 hours.
2 hours.
I had 2 hours, so I got a lot of it blocked in, but none of the detail. But I kept with it and finished it up, and I enjoy it. I like it. It's
How old is this painting?
This is probably only 4 months.
Oh, it's still a little wet.
So it's not wet, but this is one of those container ships. It's probably about 1,200 feet long. The ship.
Those ships are so.
Yeah, it is. It's just a monster. And
years and years ago, we were in the Panama Canal in a little fishing boat, and a couple of those. And they're not super huge because the canal's very narrow.
Yeah.
But God,
it's impressive when you're nosing up to the bow of it when it's coming at you. 'Cause, you know, they'll be coming in and we'll get right under the bow and put a line up, and you're probably just feet away from the bulbous bow, and they're doing 5 or 6 knots, and you're going 5 or 6 knots stern while you're feeding the line up. So it's kind of like something so wrong about being in front of this
little
large
hairy,
ship, you know?
And you can in the tug can push those guys around.
The tug. Some of those tugs are super maneuverable. They have Z drive units that rotate and just very maneuverable.
Well, that's good. There's a painting I've been staring at.
That'd be the little.
I saw it. Yes, that. I saw that. I can't remember if that's one of the JPEGs you sent me or not.
It might have been. There were a few different ones I sent you. This might have been one. This is actually, we were moving a ship into a dry dock down in South Boston. Early in the morning they do it a lot of times, and it created a shadow on the side of the ship. And I think I might have done a quick sketch, but I also got some photos from a local person that takes a lot of the nautical photos, and he gave me some reference pictures.
So there are dry docks in Boston?
There's a dry dock right down in South Boston, right near the Reserve Channel, where Black Falcon Terminal is, where all the cruise ships go in. On the opposite side of the pier, there's a dry dock.
And they can handle big ships?
Yeah.
Is that the only dry dock of that size?
That's the only one that's working. That's the only working dry dock, other than, I think, dry dock number 1, where the Constitution goes in.
I know there's a couple little dry docks in East Gloucester, I think.
Yeah.
Or there used to be.
I've been on those. We brought some boats back up here from Boston years ago, and we put them up on the ways right over.
In East Gloucester? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right at the marina there. Right,
Right, yeah.
just pull right on, and it was kind of a neat
Just
experience.
to go over there and look at all the propellers, all polished up and ready. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, there was a few artists over there that I used to. John Nestor was over there. I used to love going over and talking with him. He was quite a character over in Rocky Neck there. There's just so many talented artists around here.
There are,
Yeah,
and that's I love doing this show because there's always new artists and old artists doing new work,
Yeah.
and I love to have like an intermission once in a while on all the writers. I love writing. It's my love to talk to a painter
Yeah.
or Robert Bliss, a sculptor,
Yeah.
or we've had on musicians too.
Well, I think when I started going over, became a member at North Shore, I think seeing so many of the local artists' work just inspired me. Just like, I really went more full bore into painting and drawing. But like I said, I always have my sketchbook. I'd always bring it to work. I'd be sitting there drawing while the captain's moving the ship. He's
In retirement, are you getting a little bored with not having new exciting visions?
That was part of the drawing. I was drawing lots and lots, and I told him I was stocking up with material, sketches and stuff. And,
what's in your immediate future in your profession of oil painter?
Well, I'll just keep at it. I'd like to start doing some more landscape. My wife's getting ready to retire, so hopefully we'll do some traveling. I like to go to some of the national parks and more of those. We've been out west to a few, but that's just a whole different.
Oh yeah, the West is like another planet.
The
Parts of
mountains
it, the Death Valley is like Mars.
We're at the glacier, and it's just like just beautiful. I could see a whole series there.
We are almost out of time. Dan Murphy, I want to thank you very much for coming by the Writer's Block and sharing your art and your ambition and your talent with me and with our audience.
Thank you very much.
I also want to thank our TV audience for being with us and sharing Dan Murphy's experience and his paintings. If you've learned something about art and Daniel Murphy's career, then the Writer's Block has done its job. Thanks for being with us, and I'll see you again next time. Good night.